Let's get started with the first classification of the company on the basis of liability. That is, on the basis of liability, company can be divided into three. One, limited by shares. Two, limited by guarantee. And three, we have unlimited company. First, we'll focus on company limited by shares. Now, what do we mean by company limited by shares? For this, we have to look at section 2, subsection 22. It says that when the liability of the members of a company is limited by memorandum of association to the amount unpaid on the shares held by them, it is known as company limited by shares. Now, how to understand this? If a company wants to run its operations, it needs one item very important, that is money. It can raise money by issuing shares. Now, to understand this better, let's take an example. Let's say the company is going to issue 10,000 shares, fine, of rupees 100 each, but it is going to call only 75 per share. Now, it means 25 is payable by the shareholders, whoever have already paid that 75 whenever the company calls them. So here what is happening? 10,000 shares are issued at 100 each. 75 has been called and 25 is not yet called, and this is payable by the shareholders when the company calls them. Now let's say the company is hardly forced to make some payment to some of its lenders or creditors, and let's say the company has no money at its disposal. Now what will happen? The lenders or whoever have given the money will approach the court of law, and the court will in turn direct the company to pay the remaining, pay the lenders. And how the company is going to do it? It is going to call the shareholders whoever have not paid this 25, so that they can pay that, and that money can be used to pay the creditors or lenders. But here it may so happen that the liability that got to be settled to the lender may be a big amount, okay, but what can be claimed from the shareholders will be restricted to 25 per share, because already they have paid 75. So here the liability of the shareholders are restricted to the unpaid amount only and not beyond that. It means no personal properties of the shareholders will be attached for any other liabilities of the company. And we should also understand one thing: when a shareholder or when a person becomes a shareholder of a company, he is actually becoming co-owner of the company. He is becoming co-owner of the company only, and he is not becoming co-owner of any of the assets of the company. Let's be clear on that. The ownership of the assets will remain with the company only, because company has identity. It has separate legal identity. Okay, so shareholders are owners of the company, okay, but the extent to which they are owning, let me put it here, the extent of ownership of the shareholders would be determined, or it is dependent upon their shareholding percentage or proportion. Okay, so this is about the company which are limited by shares. Next, we'll move to the second classification, the company which are limited by guarantee. Definition is available in section 2, subsection 21. Now what is the definition? Let me put it here. If the liability of the members of the company are limited by memorandum of association to any amount which members undertake to contribute to the assets of the company in the event of its being wound up, then it is a company limited by guarantee. So what is happening here? The liability of the members, the liability of the members is actually restricted. It is restricted to the sum that is mentioned in memorandum of associations. So members cannot be called to contribute beyond the agreed amount. Okay, so the members cannot be called to contribute beyond the agreed amount. Fine. So now we have understood what is company limited by shares, what is company limited by guarantee. Let us identify what are the similarities between these two and what are the differences. Okay, the similarities are the company limited by guarantee, the company limited by shares, both are legal personalities and both of them have limited liability. If you take the company limited by the share, the liability is restricted to the amount which is going to remain unpaid on the share, whereas if you take the company limited by guarantee, it is restricted to the guaranteed amount, right? Now, what is the difference between these two? The difference between the company limited by shares and guarantee is that in case of company limited by guarantee, the members will be called upon to discharge their liability only after this winding up process starts. Okay, members will be called upon to discharge their liability only after commencement of winding up and only after subject to certain conditions. Whereas in case of company limited by shares, they can be called upon to pay this unpaid amount at any time, which may be during the lifetime of the company or it may be during when the company is being wound up. Okay, so these differences makes it very clear the company limited by guarantee can raise the guaranteed amount only at the time of winding up of its business. It means this company is not dependent on, say, or it is not dependent on the money, on this money, guaranteed money for its working capital purposes, because this money is going to be raised only when the company is going to be closed. Fine. Then we know there is a third classification called unlimited company. Now let's understand this. Now this definition is available in section 2 subsection 92. Now what does that section says? Unlimited company is a company not having any limit. So there is no limit on the liability of its members. So the members are having no limit on their liabilities. So how long this no limit will continue? It will continue till they are members. It means if the members cease to be members, then the liability will also cease. So as we say unlimited, it means the members' liability will extend to the whole debt of the company. But it does not mean that single member should pay all the debt. No. Okay. When we say unlimited, it means members' liability will extend to the whole amount of company's debt. And what does that mean is if a company could not pay the debt, then it's the members' responsibility to pay. But this responsibility is a collective responsibility, that is each and every member should contribute. The articles of association of these companies, the companies with unlimited liability, should state the amount. So I'll put it here. The articles of association of these companies should state the amount of share capital and it should state the number of shares, because only this will help the members to know the proportion of contribution when this unlimited liability, say the obligation, the need arises to pay.